Hello, thanks for joining us this evening. So we're just going to take you through some information about the course that we do here at Solihull in relation to criminology. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat as we're going along, and we'll also answer questions at the end because we may actually answer some questions for you as we do go along. Okay, so why choose to study criminology here at the college? Well, the course is very popular and we do have large numbers of students wanting to join the course. We have really good creative team that teach it. We've all come from different backgrounds, many of us working within the criminal justice system at some point previously. We work closely with Birmingham City University as well, so that's a real opportunity where some of the staff lecturers from there come over and give lectures on different aspects of criminology. In non-COVID times in particular, we've done lots of different visits to different places, got lots of different people in, and we do aim to keep doing that as restrictions allow us to as we go along. Okay, so in terms of what the entry requirements are to do criminology here at the college, because it's an A-level programme, you actually need to have the same GCSEs as you would for doing any A-levels. So the general entry requirements at the college for A-levels is at least grade 6, 2 grade 6s at GCSE, and at least a further 3 grade 4s at GCSE. You do need to have a minimum of grade 4 in both English language and maths, but your subject grades for GCSE can come from any combination of subjects. So those are the entrance requirements you generally need for criminology. So in terms of the course itself, we get asked the question quite a lot about whether criminology is a BTech or not. And essentially it is not a BTech. Criminology is a diploma, and all that really means is that it is an equivalent to an A-level, and the only real difference between that and another subject, which is an A-level, is the way that criminology is assessed, which I'm going to talk a little bit about as we go a bit further through. So criminology is assessed as we go along, so it's a continuous assessment. So you'll have 4 different points over the 2 years where you will undertake a formal assessment, which will give you your grades for each of those units, which are then added together to give you your overall grade for the course. It carries the same UCAS points as an A-level, so if you get an A in criminology, it's like getting an A in psychology, for example, and you would get the same UCAS points, which would be important when applying to university. So what do we study in criminology? Well, year 12 is split up into 2 units. The first unit is called Changing Awareness of Crime. You would do this between September and December when you first start. And this is where we focus on how crime is portrayed in the media and what what the perception of crime is because of that. We look at different types of crime and focus on lots of different campaigns in relation to crime, and how that's had an impact on that particular crime and on the law surrounding it. You would then sit an assessment for that in the December, and then once you've done that, you go straight onto Unit 2, which is criminological theories, and this is much more focused on why people commit crimes, looking at various theories from sociology, psychological and biological. And this unit is assessed by an exam which you would sit in the summer, which is usually in the May. That would be your first year complete. So when you then come back after the summer and go into your second year, into year 13, you then go on to study the Unit 3, which is crime scene to courtroom. And this basically looks at what happens from the start of a crime scene, who's involved in all of that. And we literally, the unit takes you through what happens from that point all the way through that criminal justice process. So from the crime scene to the police, from the police to the courts, from the court to prison, that kind of thing. And this is assessed again in the December. And then once you've done that, you go on straight on to look at Unit 4, which is crime and punishment, focusing on the law and the organisation of the criminal justice system. And then you would sit an exam for that in the June. So each of the units that you study in criminology is worth 25% of the overall mark. So each of them are equally weighted. And you've heard me mention previously that in the first year for Unit 1 and in the second year for Unit 3 that you would sit something called a controlled assessment. And essentially, you may not have come across a controlled assessment before, but the way this type of assessment works is that from September to December, you learn all of the material for Unit 1 or for Unit 3. And then you build up a portfolio, a folder of notes. Then you take your folder of notes into the assessment with you, but the assessment is done over an 8-hour period, which covers 2 days, where you're given a case study and a set of questions that you have to answer, but you do have the help of your folder of notes in there with you over that 8-hour period stemming those 2 days. So that's what a controlled assessment is, and 2 of the units that you would study are assessed in that way. But this does mean that you do have to be fairly organised, I would say, for criminology, because it is consistent in terms of assessment all the way through, and you do have to keep your folder and your notes in order, and you have to be building and working on that as you're going along. The other 2 units, which would be Unit 2 and Unit 4 that you study, are assessed by an exam, and that's what you would consider a traditional written exam, whereby you don't have access to any information, notes, folders, books. And you go in to that exam and you sit a 1.5-hour question paper, and that's how Unit 2 and Unit 4 are assessed. In terms of careers and criminology, in terms of what our students go on to do, a lot of our students do choose to go to university. We do have quite a large number of them going on to study criminology at university as well. And if they're not studying criminology, a lot of them are going into various courses whereby the study of criminal justice is involved in some way. There's lots of different careers that you can go into. Within the criminal justice system, there's a few of them on the screen for you at the moment, just giving you some idea of the types of things that you can do when studying criminology. So it is just to give you an idea, but that's not the only things you can do. There are many more, but we just wanted to give you some kind of an idea as to where you can go when studying criminology. So some of our students gave us some quotes which we thought you might want to have a look at, so you can actually get an idea of what the students think about the course. So I'll just let you have a little look at those. They're on the screen at the moment. Okay, so if you haven't applied to the college already and you do want to apply to study criminology or any other subject, then if you go to the website, which is there for you on screen at the moment, there's step-by-step instructions of how you can apply. And essentially, once you have completed your online application, you will create an account and you'll be able to log in and check where your application is, you know, in the various processes that it actually goes through. That you will be sent an email confirmation of your application, normally within 2 weeks of when it's received. At this point, the college will contact your school for a reference, and then after that you would be invited in to attend an interview at the college, where we would sit down and talk to you about your application, about the choices you've made in terms of subjects and whether you've got the predicted grades or potentially will meet the grades needed to join those particular subjects. And then at that point we will probably be in a position to make an offer to you. Okay, so I hope we've been able to answer some of the questions and give you some information about criminology and the college. But if you do have any questions, we'll stay online for a while. Just either pop it in the chat and we'll answer what we can.
Okay then, so we've got a question here that's asking how many hours a week is the course. So criminology at the moment sits alongside part of your A-level programme, so you'd be expected to do 3 sessions, as it were, and those sessions are normally an hour and a half or potentially 2 hours. So you're looking at anything between sort of 5 up to 5 hours a week, sort of contact time, maybe a little bit longer, and then similar in terms of work outside of the classroom. Okay then, so question's just been raised. If we don't get the grades, then what happens?
If you don't get the grades that you need to study criminology, then potentially it probably means you haven't got the grades you need to study on the A-level programme. So you would need certain grades to study on the A-level programme, which includes criminology. So there are alternative courses that can be offered if students don't get the grades. There isn't an alternative for criminology, but there are alternative options which you could look at if you didn't ultimately get the grades.
Okay, so another question that's been raised, quite a good one actually, we get asked this quite often. Would it be better to study criminology or law if I want to become a lawyer? I'm assuming that means the student is potentially looking at university and maybe studying law in the future.
Okay, so if you want to go on to become a lawyer, you would have to go to university afterwards, and you don't have to study A-level law, for example, but you might want to choose A-level law. I think you could choose a combination of A-level law and criminology to study if you want to go on to become a lawyer. I think it would be useful. It's a nice combination of subjects to actually do. So you don't have to study criminology to go on to study a law degree or become a lawyer. Just like you don't have to study an A-level in law to go on to study law further at university, but it is something you might want to consider because it does give you a good grounding in the criminal justice system and law. But you can ultimately study criminology as one of your subjects, law as another subject, and then pick another subject to do.
Okay, another question here. Does criminology have similar topics that you would learn at law, or is it different? So with regards to that question, criminology is very different in terms of the sort of study of law. Criminology is heavily focused around the study of crime, and we obviously associate that with laws, different criminal offences, and understanding how offences and acts and legislation has been used as part of that understanding of criminology. Whereas obviously law is the study of law itself, so it's very different. You might obviously come across the odd laws that are brought up in both subject areas, but the way in which you will obviously look into those laws is very, very different. And obviously with law, you've got your own sort of set sort of topic areas to discover. So. Okay then, so somebody's asked, is criminology coursework and exam, or is it full exam? So there is no aspect of coursework. There is what's called a controlled assessment, which is an 8-hour, as it says, controlled assessment, in which students can take notes in to support them with answering a series of tasks based on a brief. And then there is an external exam. So this is the sort of formal exam that you will be familiar with. The criminology exam is normally an hour and a half in length. paper-based exam, which will be externally marked. Okay, so another question, is the exam mainly based on case studies or will other questions be used? So the exam has a series of questions, normally broken up into 3 main sections. Some of those are what we class as scenario driven, so there will be sort of a case study element to them, and then some of them are contextual questions, so they'll give or set a context for you and then you will answer based on that context. Okay, so it's gone fairly quiet. We'll just give it a few more minutes in case anyone has any questions still. Please drop them in the Q&A session, and we can obviously answer those. Okay, so the session has finished. There's no further questions. Thank you for listening in. And as I say, if you have any queries or questions after today's session, please just contact the college and obviously raise them through there. Thank you.